Thanks for watching Paradise Press JA. I'm excited to see that the U.S. President Joe Biden is stepping down from the race for president in 2024, and he instead is endorsing Kamala Harris. We all know that none of these politicians' hands are totally clean, but let me be frank. I would much rather live in a world where Kamala Harris is the next U.S. president than the Republican candidate. I've always liked Kamala Harris, and if we are living in a world of identity politics, Harris has represented my own cultural background and progressive ideals for many years. If you've been on TikTok or social media, very few people who consider themselves liberal were excited about Biden's second term. Because Trump has so much media hype behind him, and he has become a king for his racist, religious base, I knew in my heart of hearts that we needed a more inspiring candidate to beat Trump. If Kamala wins, she'd be the first woman president. She'd also be representing Black and brown people in America and internationally. Though Kamala Harris was born in Oakland, California, she, like me, is a first-generation American with a diverse background. Because I highlight Jamaican and Caribbean LGBT news here on Paradise Press, I think it's so important to mention that, like me, Kamala Harris is a Jamaican American. Her father, Donald Harris, is from Jamaica, and her mother, Shamala Gopalan, is from India. Jamaicans have always been influenced by Indian culture because after slavery was abolished in Jamaica in the 19th century, many Indian and South Asian indentured servants resettled in Jamaica. One of my favorite dishes during the holidays is roti and curry goat and chicken, Jamaican staple foods that came from our Indian history. Not only do I feel related to the vice president in ways, she's also been a staunch LGBTQ ally throughout her political career in California, even before making it to the White House. This is so important for me because Jamaica has such a reputation of homophobia and violence, so a Jamaican American woman with so much access being a leader for LGBTQ rights in the Democratic Party is meaningful. Even now, Indian laws have been flip-flopping on LGBTQ rights issues, and LGBTQ Indian people are still at risk for social ostracization and violence. Kamala Harris has many highlights in her career showing her support for LGBTQ rights. According to Advocate.com, she officiated gay marriages in 2004 when the state's first legalized gay marriage in California. One of the most joyful moments of my career was performing the marriages in 2004. Truly joyful. End quote. Because gay marriage was repealed in California, when I first got to LA, my first job in the state of California was to talk to voters in Black and brown neighborhoods about their thoughts on marriage equality and how the lack of marriage benefits affected gay people. In a crazy way, I feel like I worked alongside Harris in the state of California, even if in spirit. Harris established a hate crimes unit in the DA's office, as well as an environmental justice unit. Once again, I am a gay Jamaican American immigrant who directly benefited from this policy, which shows how these laws really do affect everyday people in our communities. I was a victim of a hate crime in the state of California, and I experienced firsthand how important that the states identify these types of crimes so that victims get justice for targeting vulnerable minorities. Harris also created a program to give first-time drug offenders the opportunity to earn a high school degree and find employment. The U.S. Department of Justice called it a national model of innovation for law enforcement. She received perfect 100 score on the Human Rights Campaign Congressional Scorecard, which measures support for LGBTQ equality, before leaving the Senate to become vice president. I volunteered for the HRC, and along the years, I've realized they are a great support for LGBTQ pride and events globally, helping to fund pride events in countries where support for LGBTQ people is minimal. As a senator, she introduced a bill to mandate insurance coverage of pre-exposure prophylaxis, the HIV prevention method, called PrEP. I've worked in HIV prevention for over 15 years, and PrEP services are helping gay men and really anyone have more prevention options in their sex lives. Plus, the PrEP resources are also creating jobs for LGBTQ people in nonprofits to connect people to these services. So these laws have important results for our community in lowering HIV rates in our community and employing our community as well. On trans health care, Kamala Harris would say, quote, "The intersection on the issue of reproductive care and trans care and the ability of families to be able to have care for their children and their families is really, again, an intersection around attack that are on an identity." End quote. She has hosted Pride Month receptions at the Vice President's mansion and visited New York City's Stonewall Inn, a historic site and gay bar in New York. She met with WNBA star Brittany Griner and her wife, Sherelle Griner, before Brittany's first game after her release from captivity in Russia. For those who don't know, Griner was arrested by the Russian police for having marijuana vape cartridges in her bag, and being sentenced to harsh prison time in a very anti-gay, anti-black country had to be utterly terrifying. That's such a great look for black women's solidarity with gay women. Kamala Harris admitted to smoking weed when she was younger, so her supporting one of our most visible black LGBTQ icons means a lot. And let me be very clear, this is a pro-cannabis channel, something that Kamala Harris has been lenient with as well in her political career. Plus, America, and truly the world, will likely be more globally minded in the years to come. Because of global warming and heat waves, which are literally melting India, many South Asian people will likely be a growing minority here in Canada and the US. And a Black and South Asian woman running the world who is pro-woman and pro-LGBTQ people is exactly the kind of leadership we need moving forward. I think a younger black woman who has a great track record for LGBTQ rights is exactly the kind of leader that people will want to rally around. I think the American people are tired of white men running everything, and this coming literal race war against black and brown people, women and minorities. A black woman running things can help to undo the damage done by the racist and conservative base that has depressed Americans for several years now. Either way it goes, I think this is going to be a close race, and at this moment of me writing this, on the first day that this news was announced on July 21st, 2024, I have no idea who could be America's next president.